Wawawiwa! Hi, everybody. It's Midlife Time Crisis, and we've got another demo playthrough to do for you today. So we're going to play a game called Lockdown Hollow Stories. It's pretty obvious it's a survival horror of sorts. I mean, the reason I was sort of drawn to it is it's got a number of really cool things. I mean, fixed camera angles. You know, they're coming back, baby. They are coming back. I don't know if they ever left, but a lot of games like to do like the Resident Evil 5 over. Is it 5? No, Resident Evil 4. Sorry, over the shoulder camera angle for a lot of like, I guess horror games. Fixed camera angles and tank controls are very retro. Resident Evil style is sort of the granddaddy of survival horror. But look, it never left, and it's back. At least for this game, it's used. It doesn't have tank controls, but when a game does mention it's got fixed camera angles and I guess multiple angles that's used to switch between scenes, I tend to not have too much faith in the controls working, because if you control like how you would an action game, with a joystick, you move around and your character moves responsibly. When you tend to move between different camera angles, your move forward ends up becoming moving back depending on where that perspective shift is. At least with tank controls, that when you go, you have to turn your character around, pirouette around, and then one button moves always forward, and one button always, when I mean button, directional button, and one moves always back. So you know that every single time you're pressing that button, it's always going to be forward. So look, I mean, maybe they'll correct it here, who knows, or maybe I won't even comment about it. Maybe, it just speaks for itself. But hey, if it works, it works. I just don't think they have tank controls, I don't think. But hey, look, this looks pretty promising. Again, it's another blind playthrough, so I don't know too much about it. I'm getting, because it's got like, I don't know, this macabre sort of feeling in the art, that there's body horror type stuff or supernatural elements. I'm not too sure. I do know you play as a police officer, a cop, a detective. So that's very popular with a lot of survival horror games. It's not survival horror like horror games per se. One thing that always sort of bugs me a little bit is when you have sort of police officers or detectives as your main character, they're always singular. Very rarely do they act by themselves in terms of their normal modus operandi. There's always a partner with them, and if they do act by themselves, it's solo, as in like they've just gone vigilante style, like what you see in those 80s 90s action movies. But who knows, maybe it's not. So like, look, I won't disturb you anymore. Without further ado, this is Lockdown Hollow Stories.
I don't know what it is, but it's not what we thought. Send reinforcements, please. Don't.
Mr. Donovan, can you hear me? Richard! I have to get there as soon as possible.
What the hell? Jesus. Shit. Ugh. What? What the hell? Jesus. Shit. Shit. Finally. What the heck? Come on. Yes. Hey. Oh. I can't.
Hi, I'm Jessica Lane, the receptionist at the Hollow Pines Police Station. And I'm recording this because I was forced to. I've been working here for 3 years, and I've never been asked to do anything like this before. Okay, I understand it's for record keeping, but then what's the logbook for? Anyway, it's my job, and it's the only thing keeping me going since my husband left me.
Shit. What? Yeah. Yeah. What's this?
What's your name?
Eric Monroe.
Do you know why you're here? Don't know. Or don't want to answer.
I don't know.
Are you sure? There's no way you're going to walk free. There's a lot of evidence against you. I would recommend that you...
Officer Page, stop the interrogation.
Why? I just started and...
He's innocent. Let him go.
But there's evidence.
Do it. That's an order.
Yes, sir.
Well... Come on. Come on. Okay. Nothing. Ha! Ugh.
It's Richard's badge. He was here.
Shit.
What the hell? Shit. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell?
Something happened today that I can't get out of my head. I was interrogating Monroe. I had everything. Testimony, solid evidence, and for the first time, it looked like that bastard was going to pay. But Newman walked in and interrupted me mid-interrogation. Nothing like this had ever happened to me in my 5 years on the job. He took everything out of my hands, and soon, the evidence disappeared as if it had never existed. Newman closed the case without giving me a single explanation. Monroe is free, and I know what that means. Another child in danger. I've been blind. I always trusted this station. But now I'm starting to see that money here weighs more than justice. And I'm afraid this is just the tip of the iceberg. I need to find out more, even if it costs me dearly.
Wait. What the hell? What the hell? Could it be?
And thanks for playing the demo. Okay, so that was... look, I won't lie. That demo has a lot of jank still on it. A lot of polish is still required. I think that's pretty obvious. I usually always think that when a demo does come out, the general public usually has a higher threshold in terms of quality, because of course, like, the demo itself is meant to showcase the game. I was discussing this with the rest of the gang here at Midlife Time Crisis, and we were thinking, it depends also on what's the purpose of the demo. You may have different reasons to put the demo. It could be like a tech type of demo. You could showcase like the engine rather than the actual game itself yet, like narrative wise, and showing something that's close to the finished product. But for me, it's always generally that when a demo does come out, it's meant to represent the as close as possible to finished product, and usually you want to polish a lot of what you can, and what you can't, usually you sort of cut that out. A demo usually has a lot more planning involved. Usually you don't sort of randomly hodgepodge things together. I've played many other demos that I haven't sort of made a video of that sort of are bite-sized pieces of the game. Like they're either an intro or an extract in the middle, or even just a demo completely separate from the game but represents the final product of the game. Like, so basically what I mean by that is the game does not relate to the demo. It just sort of relates in theme and characters and etc. there's very few sort of games that release demos like that. So look for this game, for Lockdown HoloSense. Look, I think it's very promising. It's unfortunately, like, a lot of the jank is noticeable. I can't really ignore them. But a lot of the things I can praise is, look, I'm a very big fan of the PS1 style graphics. I mean, that's harkening back to a retro era. It's very popular, PSX style graphics in terms of having it for indie survival horror games. I love the mystery it's trying to put together. Like, definitely the mystery there is what I can guess from the story is maybe a more psychological aspect rather than, a standard Resident Evil infection or even supernatural, that Silent Hill sort of takes the route towards. And the reason I say that is, like, the enemies seem to... So they display a flicker, like a digital flicker, like an analog VCR television flicker, and to me that design sort of choice is or visual choice is not random, So in my mind, I get moments where I can sort of equate that to, oh, is this a sci-fi game and not a supernatural game, or is this game existing in a simulation? I don't know. I mean, so that's the thing. I really enjoy that mystery that's peaking, like, visually. It's odd, and it doesn't sort of fit, but it fits when you sort of look at it from a different perspective. And so on top of that, I think the camera angles they're working with, like the angles in terms of the, the fixed camera angles that are popular in Resident Evil, the retro Resident Evil sort of games, a lot of them are very dynamic and very acute angles. I think not all of them work so well, especially because a lot of the shots actually you transition between very small tight spaces where the angle doesn't the angle's perspective doesn't stay for a longer period of time. In terms of where your character sort of traverses through. So when you transition between these different acute fixed angles, it can get very jarring. They're very, very dynamic. Not dynamic, sorry. What I'm trying to say is they're very, very acute, very, very, very artistically sound. Like, I think they're very exciting angles, but there's just too many exciting angles in a short period of time for a character to traverse to. So sometimes you want to gently sort of make those angles dynamic. So, when your character is walking, it follows properly, without sort of getting the viewer all too sort of confused or like there's too much happening on screen. But also you want to make sure that when you transition between certain angles, you pick proper angles where you're not leaving the character, or not the character, you're not leaving the player, bewildered, so to speak. I don't know if I'm describing it well, but I know when I sort of played, I was going, oh, I'm moving between so many different exciting angles. Some of them are very creative, some of them are quite daring, but then I'm kind of getting confused of where I am in terms of where I last left, the last angle I left off from, and the new one. So that's sort of what my main big thing regarding that. I think a lot of you will probably understand what I mean by that. Really, it's just to sort of tame it down a little bit. Have it so that when you have angles, they're at a good perspective choice where you can leave it there for a little while. Allow the player to be able to traverse there in more than just a few seconds. Like give them enough ample time for the distance you sort of plan for them to move between shots. I think that's important, because it's, imagine like when you watch a movie and it's just filled with all these quick shots. Like you move from one different angle, one different scene after another, and it's really busy for your eyes. Your eyes get really strained. It really changes the experience for the viewer. So it's the same in a video game. When the player is playing through your game, even the number of shots, the type of shots you do over a period of time, sort of brings out a different experience for the player. You can have them in a heightened sense, but definitely it's very important to sort of control that, to sort of balance it. Like tension doesn't necessarily need a lot of interesting shots. I've seen some horror movies with very beautiful, interesting shots, but it's kind of weird. Like, it's a weird juxtaposition because it's not really the typical shots you associate with like a horror movie per se. I mean, I've got one in my mind, but I won't quote it. I'm just saying that it does exist. All right, other things that I do like about it. If you know the the Polish survival horror game called Holston. Brilliant game. I mean, I haven't been able to make a video of that, and I won't. There's so many out there anyway. And this game sort of borrows one of their mechanics, which is sort of like when you go into your shooting mode, so to speak, as crude as I call it. Like you go into first person view, which is fantastic. I mean, I think the game does a really good job doing it. There's a few janky moments where, depending on the perspective, the angle that you're in of a particular shot or scene, it gets a little bit awkward. But I think that's just takes some time just to sort of, like set it up properly. But basically, like it's got something there. I do like it. I didn't think it was annoying. There's some moments where it. So I think where it sort of fails, where Holston made it work, is that Holston's angle or gameplay angle is isometric. So it's always a fixed view that you can rotate around. So when you do move to your first person view to shoot, it's you can expect it, because you're tracking from the isometric view, regardless if you can rotate it to a different view. With these fixed angle views, again, similar to what I was what I was mentioning about having so many different camera angles that the player has to pass through, it's almost the same for this mechanic where you shoot in a first person view and then from coming out of a fixed angle view. So because there's so many different fixed camera angles, when you do sort of move between that first view, it can get daunting a little bit, especially because when you do have enemies which is the reason why you're in first person view to attack them. Your I guess your sense of direction and sense of anchor in your part of the world gets lost a little bit. And what I mean by that is, like let's say you're in an angle where for some reason the controls get you to move forward, from a previous angle where you're actually moving into the background. So when you do put up your first person view to shoot, you sort of lost like where you are. Like I go, oh, where am I? I was going backwards, but now I'm going forwards. So again, I can't see the enemies in front of me. If there are any there, I have to sort of resort to remembering, to sort of play it defensively, like the game. Hopefully, I'm explaining it correctly, but I think you know what I mean. It's not a big thing that breaks the game. It definitely works. It just needs a little bit of fine tuning. All right, so that's me. That's all I'm going to say about it. Look, I think it's a promising game. I never like to say anything negative about games because, of course, very few games are crap, in my opinion, and I wouldn't play them. Even the ones that are like, oh, could use some improvements. I see the quality that they're trying to bring out, and I see their plan, and I think I really do appreciate it. So games like these, I don't think are far and few between, but execution-wise, look, I think it's almost there. I mean, they did put a disclaimer that AI was used for the voice, so definitely for the voice acting. So I won't comment about that because obviously the voice acting is horrible. It's horrible. I think one thing that I will critique is a lot of the main characters, quips when they sort of observe things. It's a little, like some of them I don't think you really need, to tell you the truth. It's okay just to have a silent protagonist during moments where he's viewing things that the text is describing. Oh, one thing before I sort of go, one thing I think that is important. So the game gets a little bit also awkward when you're picking up objects from the environment. Even if it's text or I think ammo was okay, but I saw it for like text and key items, like text documents and key items. It looks like you had to do 3 different things in order to pick up an item. I think you can do away with all that and just do it in one, at most 2. So what I mean by that is, you come to an area with the eyeball icon. That means that you can observe it. So you interact with that area, that icon, and you observe the item. The text describes it. But then from there, you exit out of that text, and you're going, oh, did I pick up the item? No, you did not. Then you go back again to inspect the item once again, or that area, and sometimes you don't even pick up that item straight away. You just go, oh, there's an item here, Would you like to pick it up? Or maybe on the 3rd time, it asks you, would you like to pick it up? So I don't think that's a poor that's a poor choice in terms of how they want to handle item. I mean, that I guess that particular. I guess what I'm saying is quality of life type of improvements. So you can do away with that and just make it very seamless. Just, like what a lot of survival horror or even games do. Inspect an item, you get the chance to read the player's thoughts about it, and then you get the chance to pick it up afterwards. Just that, straightforward, in one go. I don't think you need to have 3 different moments where you have to interact to that same spot in order to get said item. That's it. I think that's definitely something that has to be improved, because it's just very awkward, in my opinion. Very awkward to sort of play through. Okay, that's it. Thanks everyone for hearing my rant. I hope to see you in the next Midlife Time Crisis video. It might be a demo, it might be a playthrough, who knows. We'll see what we're going to do. We're trying to ramp up as many of these videos as we can. And without further ado, I just want to say, actually no, not further ado, it's all done. Okay, yeah, shoo, let's all go. We got better things to do now. Alright, everybody, peace out.